Yeah, I think that's what high level games are about. They're obviously a very good team. Have different ways that they can catch you and beat you. They're a tough defensive team as well. So whenever you're playing, the highest level of games in our league, then it becomes about details. It becomes about moments. And that's what these games end up being. It becomes about set pieces. It becomes about some of the little things inside of the game. So that's important. You hope during the course of the season you get better and better and tighten up some of those things, and you learn a little bit about each other. But I think we've played each other enough. But there might be a nuance here or there, or a wrinkle that they'll try, or something, or vice versa. So it's a good match. But now that you're at the end of the season, there's a battle for the West. Obviously, playoff position is always nice to have for home field when you're getting into the playoff runs. So there's a lot that rests on this.
What do you take from the first two games? It seemed one good half in the first game, one good half in the second game. Do you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I think again, in a lot of these games we carry some version of possession because they're not too worried about carrying the possession. For us, it's important, as we say in a lot of our games, especially against them, how we lose the ball, where we lose the ball, reactions when we lose the ball are pivotal, just because of the power and speed and the quality that they have in the transition can create problems. Making sure that we finish attacks is really important, because if we're just losing balls between lines, that's going to set up their transitions. We've got to be able to create high quality chances against them, even though they're a good defensive team. And then, you got to defend your moments, which are set pieces, which, they've gotten us over the years off of things like that. So, again, the devil's in the details. It's a long game in 90 minutes. And when we have the ball, it's important that we're defending when we have the ball, and as well as attacking. And when we are defending, it's important that we're all engaged in the details of the defending to be able to protect ourselves. So, I think in the last few games we've have moments of lapse, and whether those are collective or individual, but by and large we have to stop them from getting out in the transitions against us. So if we have possession in their half of the field, we've got to be able to counter press better. We've got to be able to stop them from just getting momentum into our half of the field and attacking us. Those are going to be really key things in the game.
It'll be a different setup with Joseph out. How did Dejan fit into this? I guess more minutes than he had last against St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, Dejan is, to be fair to him, a little bit with the international break and where we were. We've slow rolled him into it, so he's ready for whatever role we present to him now. Without Joe in, obviously that's one less guy that we could potentially have in the starting lineup, which opens a door for somebody else, whether that's the traditional 9 or something along those lines. So. We have the guys that we have that are healthy and ready to go, and we'll try to set up in a way that we feel like we can create problems for them attacking wise and control them on the defensive side.
Greg, last year I experienced my first Cali Clasico in San Jose, and I noticed that when the Galaxy goes over there, they move it to the bigger stadium. Recently I also went to Portland, and after the game they were talking about the Seattle game. The coach mentioned it, the Galaxy upcoming game. Why you think besides this rivalry in LA, why the other teams are still thinking about the LA Galaxy like the big game?
Yeah, I think it's one, it's probably just an exciting game inside of our league, but two, for any of the teams in the West, this is a big kind of decider. I don't know if it's a decider because there's still some games left, especially on their side, but it's an important game to see who's going to be at the top of the West, at least going into the real final stretch of the season. And I think that impacts everybody in the West just a little bit. I think it's also just one of those games where it's arguably the best rivalry game inside of the league, and so the intensity of it, the level, all that stuff is, I think, interesting for teams to look, and they kind of get a sense of what our teams will look like as we're moving towards closer and closer to the playoffs. So it's a great moment for those teams that may encounter us in the playoffs to see some of what it might look like when we get to that stage of the season.
We'll transition to Zoom. Go ahead, Charles. Oh, yeah, Charles, go ahead.
Hey, Greg, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Charles.
I always appreciate your insight. I'm sure you've done some scouting by now of what Giroud has brought to the table
Sure.
for LAFC. Could you give a little bit of your take on maybe how he complicates things, or what aspects and facets he adds to their attack?
Yeah, I mean he's the example, I think, or the epitome of a kind of a target striker who you can play off of, who is super intelligent about his movements and how he's manipulating things at the top, his timing in the box, his size in the box, their ability to play off of him to link up some of their attacks that then can build some speed. He just, again, he's the prototypical kind of 9, really, that can do a lot of different things, and he gives them, there's just a focal point, something that I think Kai was giving them, when Kai was up there at times. Well, now you have a world-class guy who's also doing it, so they have 2 guys that they could play in that traditional 9 position that can be a handful for center backs, and it's tough for you to go one-on-one against them, so then sometimes they're occupying 2 guys, and when they're occupying 2 guys, then it gives Bouanga, Bogusz, these other guys more and more one-on-one possibilities. So again, it presents a problem just by what they bring, but it also presents a problem because then you're having to deal with other guys in other ways potentially. So, and then again, as it goes with all of these world-class level players, they just need one chance and it's one goal, right? That's the difference between world-class and not. Is some strikers need 4 chances, 5 chances to get a goal. Guys like Giroud need 1/2 of a look and it's in the back of the net, and now they're on top of a game. So it's being able to really, really minimize anything that they can possibly get that looks like decent service or good looks on goal.
And I just wanted to follow up on one thing you said earlier. You talked about the burden of possession, and I know that can be very dangerous against Bouanga. Do you feel that as a burden, or maybe you're part of your identity, or do you ever think about just lumping it at him and going direct and making them beat you in a different way?
Well, what I would say is we wouldn't want to take away things that we think are our strengths as well and change the complete image of the game, because I'm not sure if that puts us in the best position to be successful. What I think we have to do is be mindful. If you look at the 2 teams that they've lost to over the last since May, it's been Columbus and Houston, both that are teams that are good, very good in possession, want to have the ball. They're possession-oriented teams. They were just very mature about how they managed their possessions. They didn't take risk in bad positions. They maintained good counter-pressing and good positions to manage the transitions. But they were able to carry the possession, force those guys who want to be in transition to defend because they were secure with the ball. And then sometimes out of those defending positions, maybe the guys in transition aren't quite as effective. So again, they've won most of the other games that they've encountered except for against those 2 teams. And so I think we are some image of those 2 teams. It's just about being that in every single play and every single minute, and not creating exposures by losing balls in bad ways or taking risk in unnecessary areas, things like that. So I think there's certainly a balance to that, but I don't necessarily see just completely changing up our image of who we are as being a successful way of approaching the game.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Let's go to Josh. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for talking. Appreciate it. My math isn't always great, but you guys are 4 points ahead of LAFC right now. If you win, that would put you 7 points ahead. With their 2 games in hand, that gives you guys basically the ability to stay in front of them, regardless of what they do with those games in hand. Does that give you extra incentive? Is that something that matters to be able to control your own destiny here through this final stretch?
Yeah, I think that's important. I think that's one of the reasons this game is really important for our group, because again, with those 2 games in hand and knowing the quality of their group, they don't drop too many points too often. You want to try to, like you said, get on the front side of those 2 games in hand and get the points and create as much separation as you can going down the stretch. So this is why, again, for us, I do think for us to win the West, we need to win this game. I do think that that's going to be important, just because again the games in hand that are there. If we draw, maybe we can still do it. But I think if we really, really want to win the West, this is a game we need to find the right way to get 3 points.
And then can you update on Julian Aude and then Garces as well? And is Paintsville going to be able to eventually make it back? I know there were some passport issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, let's see, where do we start? Emmy has been training. He's fine. He's available and ready to go. Julian has been in parts of training. He'll get into full training as we roll into next week, and hopefully by the following weekend, Vancouver, I think. Hopefully he'll be available for selection. Joseph should be back in town tomorrow. The stuff, he's actually finalizing his stuff today and should be flying back out either tonight or tomorrow morning.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Let's go with Alex.
Hey, Greg. Thank you for your time. Just wanted to ask you, it feels like LAFC have kind of found Ricky Puig's number the last couple of games, whether it be tactically or physically. Just what if you kind of talk to him for this upcoming game to maybe get the best out of him and for him to be the impact player this Saturday? Thank you.
Yeah, it's just for Ricky at times against them specifically is finding the balance of moments when he's coming down and picking up the ball and the balance of moments when he's staying high and trying to receive balls, behind their midfield line and really being able to attack their back line. So I think some of it is that. Some of it is about us also presenting, the right numbers in the right places. They're a good defending team, whether that's in a 5 or a 4. They've got guys who are stingy and are physical and hard to play against. Their fullbacks are pretty aggressive to our wingers. So I just think we have to try to get the setup right depending on how they're defending, and we've got to find Ricky in good spots and understand that there's times when they just man mark him and they try to eliminate him from the game. And if that scenario, sometimes he might have to be not the primary candidate on the ball, but maybe picking up the ball off of second and third options on the move. So again, I think it's a collective thing. I don't think it's a Ricky thing. I think collectively we've got to get the right scenarios in play when we're on the ball, and again finding him in the right places on the field so that he can also be dangerous against them. That's not always low. I think sometimes that is him picking the ball up in higher positions.
Anything else? All right. Thanks for your time, Greg.